As of the 21st century, divorce rates have skyrocketed in the United States, specifically within the Black community. To locate the causes of this issue, I have interviewed 3 educated Black women. By interviewing these women, my goal was to see similarities and differences within their respective answers.
And quite frankly, I did not know any unpleasant families growing up who happened to be Black. I only knew of married couples or some widows and some widowers, but not a whole lot of just, I'm just gonna break the marriage. And I didn't know any kids who had divorced parents. I didn't really know that was a thing until I became an adult, especially among Black people. So I think that paragraph needs to be severely edited.
I love that. I had another question, but you answered that at the end, so I'm gonna move on. I know in your previous answer you don't think that these are problems that are affected just for the Black community, but in your idea, if for somebody that does believe that, what do you think that the causes and origins are for these problems?
I think these are problems that span every racial and ethnic group. And I think the target that has been placed on the Black community in this country needs to come off.
Right.
I don't think that Black people are behaving any differently from any other group of people when it comes to whether it's divorced couples, single parent homes, and the like. But I do think that what has happened in the past 70, 80 years is a lot more blame game has been played on the Black community as far as these elements, social elements that you've pointed out. Statistically speaking, just looking at how many whites versus how many Blacks are divorced or single parent homes or whatever, I'm pretty sure it's probably equal. But somehow the target's always on Black people. Why?
That was a good answer. I like that. This next question, I really hate it, but
Go ahead.
I'm gonna edit that out. Do you think that the causes for these problems in marriages could be because religious meaning no longer permeates the everyday life of the average individual?
No, I don't. So what we're saying is you can only be in a good relationship if you have a relationship with somebody's version of an almighty. And please don't get me wrong. I am sick and tired of hearing people saying they found God. Was he lost? Do we need to put a tracker on him? People need to mind their business when it comes to religion and religious beliefs and religious practices, and stop trying to disseminate their version of what they think is righteousness. So to be clear, you are going to judge someone. And in the Christian Bible, I believe in the New Testament portion, in each one of the Gospels, there's a section that says, judge not, lest you be judged. But you are going to judge someone based on their religious beliefs or lack of religious beliefs, and you are going to somehow paint a picture that this is why things are not going well in their lives. Now, here's what is a problem in the Black community. We are judgmental. We don't know when to put the shut to the up when it comes to other people's business. We don't know when to intervene when we see people hurting. We absolutely ignore mental health issues, which could definitely contribute to divorce, single parenthood. There could be a variety of reasons. I know a lot of men back in the 50s and 60s who died when I was a teenager and in my 20s who left families because they just were not mentally okay and there was no safety net for them.
Right.
So instead of focusing on what God people are praying to every day, maybe we need to focus on support and treatment.
I like that. Okay, next little snippets. There are more children born out of wedlock. Both parents are working and more adults are living alone in the 21st century than in the 20th century. Can these trends be reversed?
Can I get some numbers on that? Because if I don't have some numbers, I'm not prepared to comment on somebody's random observation. I need to know how many. Give me a number. 363 children were born out of wedlock in the state of Alabama in 2024. I will comment on that. But just somebody randomly throwing something out there, I think that's another reason why the Black community is in jeopardy, because we constantly throwing out these things and we're not really, where did that come from?
Right. Okay, last question. Though there are nevertheless obstacles that we face in America because of race, what can and should be done by us, the Black community, to solve some of these problems facing the nuclear family and marriage in our communities?
Child, therapy. Therapy. And also a lack of, we need to stop the judgment and start listening with open ears, open hearts, open minds. We need to start providing each other with more support. I believe in the Malcolm X school of thought. Malcolm X believed that the Black community needed to be financially independent of mainstream white America. And I think that is more relevant now. And I think that financial security and financial independence will certainly contribute to the well-being of the Black family moving into the 21st century. We are not going to be okay if we are paying 50 cents for an egg and $800 a month for daycare. So until we find a way to financially secure ourselves, how are we going to be able to get the things we need? We need more community outreach. And when I say that, I mean, where is the community arts programs for kids? Are kids learning dancing? But if I say, oh, is your kid in football and cheerleading, everybody will jump up and say, yeah, football and cheerleading. But there are other things that kids need to learn too. Why can't they do cheerleading and learn to play the guitar? You know, but we're not directing our children. We don't have the places to direct our kids to do other things besides these very narrow sports things. And also, where are the community libraries? You know, we have libraries, but do they have enough books? Are people donating books to those libraries? What about therapy? So everybody knows about BetterHelp. Where's the Black version of BetterHelp? Is there a Black version? Is somebody coming up with a Black version of BetterHelp? So we're naming all of the problems, and this interview is probably not your fault. I'm sure you were just handed these questions, but I'm just like, so we're listing all of the negative things and all of the problems, but not one time did I hear a solution. I just heard problems, and that's another issue in the Black community. When are we gonna stop being negative Nellies and start, getting some stuff done? So until we financially secure ourselves and start providing these support programs in our communities, we're gonna keep having these problems.
Thank you.
I would say that love is complex. It's multifaceted, right? Sometimes it's just really problematic. Love is unconditional. It's selfless. You have different forms of love. You have love for your family. You have platonic. It's different forms of love. Love is being selfless. Love is giving. It's caring. It's, like I said, it's just unconditional, flaws and all. It's a deep connection that you have with one person or persons, right? It just shows up differently, right? So the love that I would have for my spouse would be much different from the love that I have for my children. It's giving of oneself on a deeper connection.
Going along with that, what do you think are the keys to a successful relationship or marriage?
The keys to a successful relationship or marriage would be, I'd say, number one, listening. One must listen when being in a relationship or a marriage, and communication. Communication is key as well. Working together, handling finances together would be a healthy way that the couple could make it as well. But the key is communication and listening.
Love that. Things such as divorce, cohabitation, single parenthood, teen pregnancy, and violence are things that show up in the Black community pretty, frequently. What are your thoughts about these things, these different things such as divorce, single parenthood in our community?
Oh, wow. So that's a problem that's been stemming back from way back when, like throughout the years, right? Like, this started with the family dynamic of not having the father in the home, right? And the systems that keep the father from being in the home with the mother as she raises the children. So that's been a problem for a very long time. And we still have that today. Divorce, oh gosh, I would say, I think the divorce rate has really skyrocketed. In my opinion, I would say it's because of the way in which couples now navigate, the way in which they are, just on their grind. Like, women are not in the home per se, and the man is outside the home being the breadwinner. And so what I'm seeing now is that women are educating themselves, and sometimes their partner, they just don't mesh well. They don't get it. They don't understand. And this causes friction within the home. And therefore, that's when the divorces happen, right? And you mentioned teen pregnancy. Oh, yeah. Teen pregnancy. Well, yes. I see that a lot in our community as well. I think that for one, our young children are not being coddled. They're supposed to be coddled in a way. Well, nowadays, children aren't as innocent, and they're exposed to sex. They're exposed to, at early ages, right? And so I think that, I don't know, that they're not being educated within the home or within the school of the consequences and the repercussions that could happen, right? I think that, oh gosh, it hasn't changed either from way back when, because you have grandmothers who had children at early ages, and it's still the same now, right? But it's an ongoing, I'm not gonna say issue, but it's ongoing.
I like that. Some people think that a reason for these problems in our community regarding marriages and them not succeeding as they used to is because religion is not something that is as important in a lot of marriages as it used to be. Do you think that because religious life does not permeate the life of an everyday individual, do you think that's why these marriages are failing? It's an interesting question.
That could play into it, but I also think that today couples aren't really getting married for love, right? They're not getting married for love. They're getting married for the wrong reasons. It's for fame, it's for status, right? And it's not for genuine love. So that's a problem. Getting married for the wrong reasons. Okay, so religion may play a part in it, because I know that some couples, they seek counseling through the pastor prior to getting married, right? But so those are some of the the key issues there.
Do you think that these trends regarding the Black community's rates of divorce, marriage, do you think that they could be reversed in the future from what they are currently?
That's a tough one. And the reason why I say that is because I speak with a lot of people. I speak with my sister circle, my friends. It could get better, but oftentimes when you have couples that have tried it once, a lot of people don't want to go down that road again. Just being honest and transparent. It's just like, I've tried it. Marriage is overrated. And once you get out there and you try it, it's just like, I hear a lot of elderly women when I ask them, they say, no, of course not, right? I prefer my peace of mind. So I don't see it, going.
Everybody else was saying they thought it would, and I'm like, I want to see a different answer.
Yes.
So the last question is, though there are nevertheless obstacles that we face in America because of race, what can and should be done by us, the Black community, to solve some of the problems facing marriage in our communities?
Some of the problems that we could correct, you said correct?
Yeah, like what should we do to correct these problems?
I would say what we should do is just slow down, don't be in a hurry to get married. It's not peaches and cream, right? First of all, we're going to take a step back because one must get to know who they are as a person and love yourself first, right? Before you get out there and find out what you want, what you need, your wants and your needs, right? Before jumping into a relationship and a marriage with someone, because once you get in there, it's difficult to get out. You know what I mean? And so you want to take your time with it. It's not for show. You're not doing it for show. You're going to be with this person. And the vows is for better or for worse. And you have to think about it. We're not going to be beauty, like it fades. We get sick. You have to think about that. You have parents, you have this, you have that, you have children. And, we don't think about those things when we jump into marriage, right? I saw a couple not long ago, and his wife had gotten down sick. He has to take care of her. Couples don't think about it.
Okay, keys to a happy relationship or marriage, I would say being honest with each other, interacting with each other, and it's okay to agree to disagree, because everybody's not going to see things alike all the time. So, just discuss it and come to a common ground. I think it'll be all right.
All right. The next question is, based off of, what you've experienced growing up and what you've seen of divorces, marriages, relationships, and compare that now, do you think that the issues in the Black community today regarding the family, marriages, and couples, would you say that those compare similar to today, or are they different from today?
I think it's kind of different today, because I know back in the day when I was growing up and things were a little different. Just like they always say, before you, I'm just trying to use a word that's probably a little bit more appropriate than what I really mean. Well, I'll say it like this. Before you physically get involved with a person, back in the day, we used to always say, you want to marry them first. You want to marry them before you start having kids. And, get to know them a little longer than sometimes we may do today, because sometimes we move a little bit too fast. and we probably should wait to get to know that person, because in the end we may say, I wish I had waited a little longer to get to know this person. This person is not the person I thought it was. I thought he or she, would be.
All right. So there are some social problems in the Black community, such as, high divorce rates or teen pregnancy rates. So what do you think are the causes of these problems? And do you think that do you think these are moral problems, or do you think these are individual problems that are effective, that are problems that differ between each person, or do you think that it's a community-wide problem?
It could be a little bit of both. Just like I was saying earlier, sometimes you don't get to know the person before you get fully involved in that person. You need to get to know them a little bit better. Don't be so quick to move, and don't be so quick to be influenced. Because a lot of times, like in younger relationship, guy, maybe sometime older, they may say, well, you don't love me if you don't do a certain thing that they want you to do. They make you feel guilty, or they put you down, they make you feel bad, and sometimes when you have low self-esteem, you go ahead and do it, because we want to be loved. Everybody wants somebody, to love them, and sometimes we do stuff that we probably should wait and do later.
Perfect. To go along with that question, would you say that this problem and these social problems that we're experiencing, do you think that these can be due to religion being less of a, I don't know how to say it, in certain relationships, religion isn't as big of a piece of it as it was back in like the 50s and 60s. Do you think, since less people are religious, do you think that that would also lead to more problems in marriages and divorce?
Not necessarily, but I know I have a friend that's Catholic, and so like when the Catholics get married or whatever, they have to stay married. So I mean, they be suffering. Who wants to stay married to somebody they don't want to be with? That can't be good. One of my friends, he married this lady, and he never would divorce her. She treated him like crap. And she didn't start being nice to him until he was on his deathbed. He had cancer, and he was in his last stage before he found out about it. And that's when she started treating him like she was his wife. So, no. And as far as religion, we have some people that are atheists. Some people, are, they're different religions. So I don't think that have a lot to do with it.
Okay. There are more children born out of wedlock in the 21st century. Both parents are working, and more adults are living alone. Do you think that these trends can be reversed in the 21st century?
Anything's possible, but I don't think it's going to. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be reversed. I think it's going to get worse, because we find a lot of unwed pregnancies now, even more so back then. We found a lot of people cohabitating. Back then, in the day, it was frowned upon, very bad, and people always worried about what other people think and what they thought. And certain churches, if your child did this or you did that or whatever, they want to oust you. But now people do what they want to do. Not necessarily saying what they do is right or wrong. It's not for us to judge.
Right.
That's not on us. But a lot of us do judge, but it's not right.
All right. I'm gonna read this last little thing. Though there are nevertheless obstacles that we face in America because of race, what can and should be done by us, the Black community, to solve some of the problems facing the nuclear family and marriage in our communities? So, in other words, what are things that the Black community can do to fix these problems?
Okay. First of all, we need to mind our business. So a lot of us are in everybody's business. So if you sweep around your own back door, you won't have time to be sweeping around mine. So, and as far as like fixing what's going on, it's up to the individual to do what they feel is right. A lot of times we find people, like, say for instance, and I know this is not going nowhere further than the teacher, but like people like Oprah Winfrey, you know, who's famous, who have a lot of money, and you know, her and Stedman been together probably 40 years. Because I saw a video at one time where he said he didn't want to get married no more. And at that time, his daughter was 13 years old. So that was a long time ago. So she's probably 40 or 50 now. But anyway, so we look at her. And Goldie Hawn the same way. With her, the guy she's with, I think it's Kurt Russell. I think that's his name. Anyway, they've been living together for years and never got married. So it's been working for them. And we should judge, even though I wouldn't do it. I don't see myself doing it, because the guy I live with, I want to be married to him. But that's just me. Everybody's not like me. So I think we should always encourage marriage and pregnancy after marriage. We should always encourage that, but we should not judge. And it's up to the individual to decide what they want to do.
For a fresh perspective, I've interviewed a Tuskegee student. Her views showed that Black young people have similar thoughts and opinions about relationships, as so, most young relationships are just as toxic as married ones.
I'm ready.
As a young person in the 21st century, you've seen that divorce rates are higher, so is single parenthood and teen pregnancy. Do you think that even though these trends are higher in the 21st century than in the 20th century, that they can be reversed?
I would say I think they could be reversed. I feel like specifically in the Black community now, we have a lot of more popular celebrity like role models. So I think if they were to kind of put the time and effort into that, into making an example of healthy like habits and societal expectations within the Black community, that I think it could be reversed, as well as an increase in education within schools, which obviously it's going to be a little bit of a problem right now, but I feel like if there was more education poured into that, whether it's in elementary, high school, or even college, that it could reverse this trend that we're seeing get worse from the 20th century.
As somebody who hasn't been married, what do you think that there are things that young people should do before they decide to get married?
First, I think they shouldn't rush into marriage. I feel like a lot of people fall in love and they're so wrapped up in that person that they immediately want to get married. But I think taking time to get to know that person and genuinely being with them and understanding everything about them would help create a successful marriage, as well as cohabitating before marriage. I know a lot of people have varying opinions on this, but I feel like you wouldn't really know somebody until you actually live with them for a while. And lastly, I think going to couples therapy together before or immediately after getting married would make a big difference, because a lot of people, especially on those who plan on having children, they don't know what differences they have in their parenting styles, in the style of which they grew up in. And I think going to therapy gets them to truly get to know one another so that they can decide if they're actually compatible or not before they officially get married.
What is your definition of love?
To me, love is the ultimate trust and caring for another person. Caring about another person as much as you care about yourself, which I think is a really hard thing for people to do. So, yeah.
To go along with that question, what do you think are the keys to a successful relationship?
Keys to a successful relationship, I would say trust. You don't have anything if you don't have trust. Respect. If y'all don't respect each other as people before you respect each other as partners, I really don't think it's going to go anywhere. And friendship, honestly. I don't think you can be with someone long term if you're not friends.
What are your thoughts about some of the problems that we have in the Black community, such as single parenthood, divorce rates, teenage pregnancy, and violence?
Honestly, I think a lot of it boils down to education and setting examples to an extent. I feel like specifically in the Black community that there's not a lot of education on these topics about, as far as teen pregnancy specifically, people aren't very educated on teen pregnancy as much as they should be, contraception, things of that nature. And single mothers and violence, I think a lot of the big issue in the Black community in that aspect is that there aren't a lot of good examples that are actively being set. A lot of people have come from single parent homes and they're going to continue that cycle for a while. So I think it takes one to just break this cycle and try their best to help everybody else to kind of shift it to where we're moving away from that.
What do you think are the origins of these problems?
Slavery. I think most of this boils down to slavery, single parents specifically, with particularly fathers being sold away from their families, mothers being ripped from their children. The violence, I would say, also boils down to slavery and being impoverished after the end of slavery and the Jim Crow era. So I think most of the modern problems boil down to there not being enough help put into the Black community after slavery to fix these problems.
Do you think that because religious meaning no longer permeates the everyday life, that these cause problems in marriages and relationships?
I actually think the opposite. I don't think religion should be your strongest base for a marriage. I feel like, especially a lot of modern day examples that we see of hyper-religious marriages and in some type of abuse, whether it's verbal, physical, financial, and staying with someone out of a sense of duty, which I don't think is the basis for a healthy marriage. So I think getting away from the religious aspect and actually getting to know your person as a person and leaving religion out of it, as long as y'all views don't directly contradict, I think that would make relationships a bit stronger.
Rate for Americans has increased at an alarming rate. By the decade of the 60s, the overall divorce rate was 1 in 3 and growing. By 1979, the divorce rate approached 40%. Statistics indicate that Black couples are almost twice as likely to divorce as white couples. In 1960, about 74% of all Black families were maintained by married couples, as compared to almost 90% of white couples. By 1978, less than 60% of all Black families were headed by married couples, compared to almost 80% of white families headed by married couples. Much of this change can be attributed to separation and divorce. Now, in 1981, the divorce rate of Blacks rose around 400% from 1960, compared to a 300% rise in divorce for whites. Joining me in the studio today to discuss the issue of divorce and the Black family is Robin Nesbitt, an attorney, Belvia Jackson, a social worker, and Father Jerome Ledoux, pastor at St. Paul the Apostle Catholic Church. Welcome to folks.
Thank you.
The obvious first question, and the one that I'm sure everyone is asking right now, is, okay, why? Why is the divorce rate so much higher for Blacks than it is for white? Belvia, let's start with some of the sociological reasons.
Okay, the divorce rate for Blacks can be attributed to a number of factors. First of all, I would like to start by saying today divorce is much more accessible and acceptable than it was, say, some years ago. Okay, there are a number of factors such as unemployment that contribute to the divorce rate among Blacks, financial instability, any number of factors can be mentioned. These two that I've just mentioned are only one or two of them. Another such factor could be the breaking away from the extended family, which was very strong for the Black family, and also moving away from our religious values that played a significant role in the makeup of the Black family and the stability that was within the Black family.
I see. So what are the long-term implications of the rising rate of divorce? I mean, what is it going to mean to us ultimately as a people?
I see a decline in the strength and stability of us as a race. If there's a continued increase in the number of divorce rates, the percentage of families intact will decrease, and our survival as a race is threatened by the decline in the number of marriages that are staying together with Blacks.
Okay, Robin, from a legal point of view, would you agree that that's the case?
Yes, for the most part, I would agree. Taking it a step further, it goes to the community When you have a strong family background or a strong family unit, then that means that you have a strong community. But as we tend to find where there are single-parent families who have to work to support the family, no one's home to watch the children, or as she said, the religious ramifications that it's more acceptable now, then it tends to break up the community, whereas it used to be something where the black community raised our children together. Now it tends to be individualized, and we tend not to be as concerned. So from the viewpoint that she brought out, yes, I do agree with her, and I think it has a long range and long-term effect on the black community.
With the YouTube Music app, you can blend up to 30 artists into one big custom radio station, which means now your thumb is basically a tiny little DJ. Get YouTube Music Premium. Try 1 month free.
Okay, well, I'm hearing a lot about this. It's not just a black problem. The American family is changing. Most Americans are paying for child care because the one paycheck family is no longer a viable reality. And isn't it true that a single parent unit could be just as stable as a...
That is correct, that it can be just as stable, but in the black community we have an acute problem. The major problem is that the majority of black individuals are in the low income bracket. So for them to have to raise a family as well as pay for child support, in addition to other expenses that they meet being a single parent, it magnifies the problem, because we are not generating as large an income or revenue as those who are not in the low income bracket. So just to reemphasize your point, yes, it is a problem in the black community. Yes, there are some families that can generate the income as well as pay the child support, but for us, being that we're on the low end of the income scale, then it is a greater problem for us.
Well, what is it costing us financially? I mean, what's the cost of a divorce these days? Say your average two-child couple divorcing with property to divide.
Well, basically you have two types of divorces. You have the contested and the uncontested. The uncontested is the least expensive, where both parties are agreeing that we want a divorce and it won't be a long, drawn-out situation, which can run you anywhere from $200 on up, and this is just an average. And for the contested divorce, which means that there is a rivalry there is some bitterness between the two, then it should be anywhere from $500 on up. And when I say on up, it can increase greatly, but that is the minimum depending upon the degree of time that needs to be spent with the matter.
Father Ledoux, what is this costing us spiritually in terms of the continued amounts of breakups that are occurring in our communities?
The spiritual cost, Sonia, is enormous. And of course, I'm on the receiving end of this. All ministers, counselors are. And the anguish brought about by this is unbelievable. In the spouse, in the children, in the whole extended family, among the friends. I can recall many nights going out late, sometimes 10, 11 o'clock at night, trying to hold a family together, well, just trying to counsel a little bit, and maybe coming away 4 hours later, 3 o'clock, 3:30, with empty hands. And it's a very frustrating and painful experience. And it tells on the children, of course, much more than on the adults.
Well, in your experience, you counsel couples before they get married.
Both.
And when
before,
and during.
During,
and
after.
After, which is, I'm sure, more devastating in many ways for Catholics because the church frowns upon it. But it seems like it's a lot easier to get into marriage than it is to get out.
Unfortunately. Unfortunately, it's a lot easier to get in, and it's a tragedy that it's so easy to get in, so difficult to get out, because most people get in when they're immature, before they know what love is all about, before they know what marriage is all about.
But how do you counsel somebody like that who wants to get married?
Beforehand?
Yeah, beforehand.
Things are getting better, at least in most dioceses. I think in all dioceses at this time. There are also a group situation where you have an intense weekend of living together, well, not living physically together in the same room, but living in the same complex, men and ladies separate. But the communication is intense, just as in the marriage encounter. And I'm sure you know from your years of experience that the most difficult thing in any profession, and specifically in marriage where you live in a goldfish bowl and you live face to face all the time under a microscope, communication. It's where people fail most, it's what people fear most, it's what people do least, and certainly do not do well. And communication is a skill, unfortunately. Most of us are not equipped when we're young. You learn it as you grow older. And in the engaged encounter, you are forced to communicate. You write one another letters, and you're forced to face issues which, unfortunately, many people face only after they're married. And then, of course, it's in the context of argumentation, and it's a knockdown, drag-out situation.
I see. Belvia, you're nodding your head in agreement. I'm curious, what are the elements of a stable marriage? What is it that we should be looking for to hold our marriages together?
Okay, first of all, I would like to comment on something that he said prior to giving you that. I was nodding my head because I was in agreement with what he was saying about the lack of communication in most relationships. And having counseled couples experiencing marital problems and also counseling couples, you know, with family discord. One of the first things that I recognized was the lack of communication. There was a form of communication present, but open and honest communication, showing respect for the other person, you know, developing a sense of trust. These are things that make up a stable relationship, stable marriage. A sense of commitment as well as a sense of responsibility. This commitment not only to the two people that make up the couple, but a sense of commitment to people in general, you know. The ability to, as I said earlier, show love and respect. Economic and financial stability are also important factors. And also more so than anything is that need for spiritual or religious guidance. That's important.
Well, traditionally, black people have been suspicious of any kind of counseling. I mean, in dire need, we will go to our pastors, but it's extremely rare. Most black people look with suspicion on psychological counseling. How would you suggest that we get over it?
Okay, let me comment from this standpoint. In the past, we did go to our pastors or to, you know, some older person that we did have a relationship with. However, like you say, there is a reluctance on the part of blacks to seek out some form of professional counseling because of some of the stigmas that have been attached to it. And I feel now that it's coming out of the closet that mental illness or requesting help is becoming more acceptable, that people are beginning to take the initiative. And what I would like to say is to encourage people to make that first step. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. We all have problems. And sometimes there are problems that we cannot handle alone. And there's nothing wrong with saying, look, I need somebody. I need, you know, your help, your assistance.
Father Ledoux?
Let me add something, Sonia. You say black people, and that's true. But I think the real hanging point here is the men. And that includes the white men, but I guess it includes black men more. The woman will come, the wife will come and say, Father, we're not talking. We need help. We need counseling. And I say, well, it takes two of you. I can't talk to you alone. And she says, he does not want to come. He says we can settle our own problems. And of course, he's not talking to her. So how do they settle problems? But the hanging point, I would say 96% of the time is the man's refusal, and I attribute that to the great macho thing. After all, I'm a man. I don't need to be told. I can take care of myself. The man will not come. The man will not hear.
Now is a good time to make an appeal for if your marriage is in trouble. You know, it's a good idea to get help. I mean, the more I explore issues like this, the more I start to feel that it's more than just one man, one woman involved in it. So we've got the future of a race in our hands, and I'm very concerned. Robin?
I just want to make a comment to what my colleague was speaking of here. I think there's another side to the coin, more so than just the macho image or the macho feeling of the black male, but he has to interact in society. And constantly, when he goes out into the real world, his manhood